The USS Defiance cut through space like a metal arrow, its dark hull reflecting nothing but emptiness. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the stars through the main screen. Something was wrong. The navigation computer showed numbers that made no sense. "Ben, run those coordinates again," Morrison said to his science officer. Ben Parker's fingers moved quickly over his console. His face went pale. "Captain, we're not where we should be. That quantum storm threw us way off course. We're thousands of light years from Earth." Morrison felt his stomach drop. The storm had come from nowhere, twisting space around them like an angry fist. Now they were lost in a part of the galaxy that no human had ever seen. "How bad is it?" Morrison asked. "We're in completely unknown space. The star patterns don't match anything in our database. We might as well be in another galaxy." The bridge fell quiet except for the soft hum of computers. 800 crew members were counting on Morrison to get them home. The Defiance was humanity's newest battleship, built for war but now serving as an unwilling explorer. "Amy, try sending out standard first contact signals," Morrison ordered his communications officer. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez nodded and began broadcasting. Mathematical sequences, pictures showing human anatomy, and peaceful greetings in dozens of Earth languages filled the radio waves around them. Dr. Carl Newton looked up from his biology station. "Captain, I'm reading multiple life signs in this area. Lots of them. This region is much more populated than space around Earth." Morrison walked to the tactical station where Commander Ryan Foster was studying his displays. "What do you see out there, Ryan?" "Hundreds of ships, sir. Maybe thousands. They're using technology I don't recognize. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before." Through the main screen, Morrison could see distant lights moving between the stars. Space stations the size of small moons floated in the darkness. Ships moved in organized patterns between them, carrying cargo and passengers. Then everything stopped. "Captain," Amy said, her voice nervous, "all communications in this area just went dead. Every signal, every transmission. It's like someone turned off a switch." Morrison watched as the distant ships slowed to a halt. The flowing traffic between space stations froze. Even the automated signals from trading posts fell silent. "They know we're here," Foster said quietly. The silence stretched for hours. The Defiance drifted through space while its crew watched and waited. Every attempt at communication met with nothing. The alien ships remained motionless as if waiting for something. Engineer Nick Coleman called from the engine room. "Captain, our systems are working fine, but I'm detecting some kind of scanning beams." "Someone's taking a very close look at us," Morrison understood. The aliens had never seen anything like the Defiance. Where their ships were smooth and graceful, his battleship was a weapon of war. Angular armor plating covered every surface. Weapon systems jutted from the hull like metal teeth. The ship had been built by humans who knew that space was dangerous and that sometimes you had to fight to survive. Navigator Kelly Brooks worked at her station, trying to map their location. "Captain, based on the star positions, we're in what might be a major trade route. This could be like finding the highway system of an entire civilization." Days passed. The crew grew restless. Some wanted to approach the alien ships, others argued for heading home, though the journey would take months with their damaged navigation systems. Morrison made his choice during the morning shift. "We came here by accident, but we're here now. These beings might be friendly. They might have technology that could help us get home faster. We need to try." Dr. Newton had been studying the biological readings from the alien ships. "Captain, I count at least 12 different species in this area. 12 completely different forms of life all working together. This is incredible." The ship's artificial intelligence oracle had been quietly analyzing everything they detected. Its mechanical voice filled the bridge. "Captain Morrison, I have identified patterns in the alien technology. Their systems appear more advanced than ours in some areas, but they show no evidence of the adaptive military engineering that characterizes human designs." Morrison nodded. Humans had spent centuries fighting each other before reaching the stars. Every ship, every weapon, every defense system had been tested in real battle. These aliens seemed to have developed their technology for different purposes. "Keep monitoring everything," Morrison ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with before we make any moves." Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter received the last clear transmission from the Defiance. Morrison's voice came through the static. "We're not alone out here." Then the signal cut to nothing. Carter stared at the star charts in her office. The Defiance was somewhere beyond the edge of known space, possibly making first contact with alien life. She had 800 people under her command floating in the unknown, and there was nothing she could do to help them. On the Defiance, Morrison walked through the corridors of his ship. Crew members stopped to salute, their faces showing the same mix of fear and excitement he felt. They had trained for combat, for exploration, for technical problems, but no one had trained them for this moment. The silence continued. Whatever civilization controlled this region of space had procedures for dealing with unknown visitors. The humans could only wait and hope those procedures didn't involve destroying strangers. Morrison returned to the bridge as the third day ended. The alien ship still hadn't moved. The space stations remained dark, but Oracle had been busy. "Captain," the AI announced, "I have succeeded in decoding fragments of the alien communications that occurred before the silence began. The transmissions suggest these beings follow complex diplomatic protocols when encountering unknown military vessels." "Military vessels?" Morrison asked. "Affirmative. Their communications indicate they classified the Defiance as a warship of unknown origin and significant capability. They appear to be following established procedures for such encounters." Morrison almost smiled. The aliens weren't ignoring them. They were being careful, just like humans would be when faced with an unknown threat. The question was, what would happen when those procedures were complete? As Morrison watched the stars, he wondered if humanity was about to join something much larger than themselves, or if they had accidentally started a war with beings they couldn't possibly understand. The galaxy had gone silent, but Morrison suspected it was just taking a deep breath before everything changed forever. 3 days after the human battleship appeared, the emergency session of the Dominion Council began. The great assembly hall buzzed with tension as representatives from 12 different species gathered around the circular table. Representative Zixthera of the Veltar rose first. Her crystalline body caught the chamber's lights, throwing rainbows across the walls. "Fellow members, we face an unprecedented situation. This unknown vessel possesses technology that our analysts cannot fully understand." General Morden's forearms gestured sharply. The Kethran warrior's scaled hide rippled with agitation. "The ship broadcasts signals constantly, but follows no recognized communication protocols. Its design suggests a species that has spent considerable time perfecting methods of warfare." "Which is exactly why we must proceed carefully," Zixthera replied. "Our first contact protocols exist for good reason. We cannot simply assume hostile intent." The aquatic Nephtai representative spoke through her translation device, bubbles rising in her water tank. "The vessel's energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Their fusion reactors operate at efficiency levels we thought impossible. Either they have discovered new physics or they accept risks we would never consider." Meanwhile, aboard the Defiance, the waiting continued. Captain Morrison had organized his crew into shifts, keeping everyone busy while they tried to understand their situation. Ben Parker worked at his science station, analyzing every piece of data they collected. "Captain, I've identified at least 40 different ship designs out there. Some are clearly cargo vessels, others look like passenger transports, but a few appear to be warships." "How do their weapons compare to ours?" Morrison asked. "Different philosophy entirely. Their systems seem designed for precision and efficiency. Ours are built for maximum damage and adaptation under fire." Dr. Carl Newton had been studying the biological readings around them. "Captain, the diversity here is amazing. I'm detecting silicon-based life forms, beings that seem to live in pure energy, and others I can't even classify." "This isn't just first contact with one species. It's first contact with an entire civilization." Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez continued broadcasting on all frequencies. "Still no response to our standard signals, sir. But I'm detecting increased chatter on their communication networks. Oracle is trying to decode it." The ship's AI had been working constantly, processing the alien languages. "Captain Morrison, I have achieved a breakthrough." The beings refer to themselves collectively as the Dominion Alliance. Their communications suggest they are following what they term integration assessment protocols when dealing with our arrival. "Integration?" Morrison asked. "That sounds more promising than destroy the aliens." Navigator Kelly Brooks had been mapping the local space. "Captain, this region is incredibly organized. Traffic flows follow specific patterns, with designated shipping lanes and controlled access points. We might have stumbled into the equivalent of a major city. In the Dominion Council chamber, the debate continued. The elderly Quentar ambassador raised his feathered head. In my long experience, species that develop such advanced military technology usually do so out of necessity. Perhaps these beings have faced threats we have not. Or perhaps they are the threat, General Morden responded. Their ship alone could challenge any 3 vessels in our combined fleets. Zixthara's crystalline form shifted, indicating deep thought. We have maintained peace in this region for over 3 centuries. That peace is built on careful balance and mutual respect. Adding an unknown military power to that balance could destabilize everything. The discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication from the sector monitoring station. Council members, the unknown vessel has begun more active scanning procedures. They appear to be mapping our defensive installations. Engineer Nick Coleman was indeed scanning everything within range, trying to understand the alien technology. Captain, their power systems are incredible. Clean, efficient, and completely integrated. But their defensive systems are strange. They seem designed to deflect rather than absorb damage. Morrison nodded. Different solutions to the same problems. Keep learning everything you can. The breakthrough came during the 4th day. Oracle had been analyzing patterns in the alien communications, looking for mathematical relationships and logical structures. Captain, the AI announced, I have successfully decoded portions of their primary communication language. The beings are not ignoring us. They are following elaborate bureaucratic procedures that require consensus from multiple species before engaging with an unknown military force. How elaborate? Morrison asked. Based on the communication patterns, I estimate the process requires input from at least 8 different governmental bodies, 3 military commands, and 2 scientific advisory panels. The procedures appear designed to prevent accidental conflicts. Morrison felt relief wash over him. So they're being careful, not hostile. Correct. However, the process typically requires several weeks to complete. The beings have never encountered a situation quite like our arrival. Dr. Newton looked up from his station. Captain, I've been analyzing their biological waste products and atmospheric readings. Several of these species appear to be facing genetic diversity problems. Human medical knowledge might be able to help them. That could be useful in negotiations, Morrison said. If we can offer something valuable, they might be more willing to help us get home. In the council chamber, Zixthara was reading the latest reports. The analysis teams have completed their initial assessment. The unknown beings appear to be carbon-based, similar to several of our member species. Their technology shows evidence of rapid development, suggesting a young but innovative civilization. General Morden studied the tactical reports. Their ship could defeat any single vessel in our fleets, but it shows no signs of aggressive posturing. They maintain defensive positions and continue broadcasting what appear to be peaceful intentions. The question remains, said the Nephtai representative. Do we want contact with a species that has developed such advanced military capabilities? What threats have they faced that we have not? The answer to that question lay in the Dominion's own history, though none of the council members wanted to speak of it directly. Beyond their borders, in the dark sectors of space, something had once consumed entire star systems before mysteriously stopping at the Dominion's edge. They had always wondered if it might return. Oracle's voice filled the Defiance's bridge again. Captain, I have decoded what appears to be a historical database fragment. The Dominion Alliance exists not only for trade and cooperation, but as a mutual defense pact against something they refer to as the Dark Expansion. Morrison felt a chill. Military alliance? Affirmative. However, their communications suggest this threat has been dormant for several decades. The alliance has evolved into primarily a peaceful confederation, but they still remember the threat, Morrison said quietly. On the 5th day, the Dominion Council reached its decision. Zixthara activated the long-range communication array, sending a carefully crafted message toward the human battleship. Amy Rodriguez's console lit up with incoming signals. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's mathematical sequences, but they're using our own broadcast patterns as a template. Morrison smiled for the first time in days. They're talking to us. Put it on screen. The main display showed a series of mathematical equations, followed by simple pictographs showing the basic structure of atoms, then more complex images showing star systems and planets. They're following the same first contact procedures we used, Amy said. They're trying to establish basic communication. Morrison looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Well, people, looks like we're about to make history. Amy, respond with the next sequence in our first contact protocol. Ben, start working on a basic translation matrix. Carl, prepare a summary of human biology and culture. Basic stuff. Nothing that could be seen as threatening. What about our military capabilities? Commander Foster asked. Morrison thought carefully. We'll be honest about what we are, but we'll emphasize that we're explorers first. These beings have managed to create a peaceful alliance between 12 different species. Maybe they can teach us something. As the Defiance began transmitting its response, the galaxy prepared to change forever. Neither humans nor aliens could imagine how different their universe would become once they truly began to understand each other. The peaceful first contact lasted exactly 6 hours. Commander Ryan Foster's tactical display lit up like a Christmas tree as 6 alien vessels approached the Defiance in tight formation. Captain, we have incoming ships. They're not following standard diplomatic approach patterns. Captain Morrison studied the screen. The alien ships moved with precise coordination, their hulls gleaming silver in the starlight. Each vessel was roughly half the size of the Defiance, but they moved together like a pack of wolves. Amy, any communications from them? Morrison asked. Lieutenant Rodriguez shook her head. They're transmitting something, but it's not the same language we've been working with. Oracle is trying to translate. The ship's AI spoke with its usual calm tone. Captain, the approaching vessels appear to be Kethran military units. Their transmissions contain what my analysis suggests is a formal challenge. A challenge? Morrison asked. What kind of challenge? The Kethran culture values strength above all other qualities. Based on their communication patterns, they are requesting what they term a strength assessment to determine if humanity is worthy of diplomatic recognition. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. They want to fight us? Not necessarily fight, Captain. The challenge appears to be more of a demonstration. However, General Morden's battle group is approaching against the direct orders of the Dominion Council. Ben Parker looked up from his science station. Captain, these ships are armed with directed energy weapons and some kind of exotic matter projectors. Their shields operate on principles I don't understand. Morrison made his decision quickly. General quarters. All hands to battle stations. Ryan, bring our defensive systems online, but do not target their ships unless I give the order. The Defiance transformed as its crew prepared for combat. Armor plating shifted to optimal positions. Weapon systems powered up. The bridge lights dimmed to emergency illumination. Dr. Carl Newton secured his biological research and moved to an auxiliary station. Captain, if these beings are testing our strength, what happens if we fail? Let's make sure we don't find out, Morrison replied. The Kethran ship spread into an attack formation. Their weapons began charging, energy signatures climbing rapidly. Captain, Oracle announced, I have completed translation of their challenge. General Morden states, Unknown warriors, you enter our space with a vessel of war. Prove your strength or be judged unworthy of the star paths. Morrison activated the ship's communication system. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Defiance. We are peaceful explorers. We do not wish to fight. The response came immediately. General Morden's translated voice filled the bridge. Peace is earned through strength. Weakness invites destruction. Show us what you are. The first energy beam lanced out from the Kethran flagship, striking the Defiance's forward shields. The ship shuddered, but the barriers held. Shields at 80%, Foster reported. They're testing our defenses. Morrison watched as the alien ships began their attack pattern. They moved with practiced precision, firing in sequence to overwhelm his shields through coordinated strikes. It was beautiful, deadly, and completely predictable. Nick, can you adapt our shields to their energy frequencies? Morrison called to engineering. Engineer Coleman's voice came back through the comm system. Already working on it, Captain. Their technology is elegant, but it's designed for efficiency, not adaptation. Give me 5 minutes. Morrison didn't have 5 minutes. The Kethran ships were increasing their attack intensity, and his shields were dropping steadily. Ryan, return fire. Target their weapon systems only. I want to disable, not destroy. Foster's fingers moved across his console. Kinetic projectiles armed and ready, Captain. Fire. The Defiance's railgun spoke with thunder. Solid metal projectiles accelerated to incredible velocities shot toward the alien ships. The Kethran shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered little protection against physical impacts. The first projectile struck General Morden's flagship, punching through its shields and disabling its primary weapon array. The second and third shots crippled the weapon systems of 2 more ships. "Impossible," came Morden's translated voice. "How do your projectiles penetrate our barriers?" Morrison smiled grimly. "Different problems, different solutions, General. Your shields stop energy. They don't stop metal moving really fast." The Kethran ships regrouped, trying to understand what had happened. Morrison used their confusion to his advantage. Kelly, evasive maneuvers. Pattern Delta. Navigator Brooks sent the Defiance into a series of unpredictable movements that no computer could calculate in advance. The massive battleship twisted and rolled through space like a fighter craft, avoiding the aliens' attempts to target it. The Kethran had never seen anything like it. Their ships moved in precise formations, following mathematical patterns that maximized efficiency. The human ship moved like a living thing, chaotic and impossible to predict. "Nick, how are those shield modifications coming?" Morrison asked. "Almost there, Captain. I've figured out how their energy systems work. It's actually pretty simple once you understand the physics." Coleman's modifications kicked in just as the aliens launched their most powerful attack. The combined energy of all 6 ships struck the Defiant simultaneously. The human shields flared, absorbed the impact, and held firm, shields holding at 95%, Foster reported with amazement. General Morden's voice carried confusion and growing respect. "Your defenses adapt to our weapons. This is not possible with known technology." Morrison opened communications again. "General, we don't want to hurt you. But if you keep attacking, we'll have to defend ourselves more aggressively." To prove his point, Morrison ordered a demonstration. The Defiance's point defense systems activated, filling space around the ship with a web of laser fire and projectile streams. Any missile or fighter that entered that zone would be destroyed instantly. At the same time, the ship's electronic warfare systems reached out and touched the Kethran vessels. Communications went dead. Navigation systems flickered. Weapon targeting computers began showing random data. "Your ship fights like a living creature," Morden transmitted as his systems cleared. "It adapts, it learns, it strikes without warning. This is not how civilized beings conduct warfare." "With respect, General," Morrison replied. "This is how humans conduct warfare. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've learned to expect the unexpected." The engagement continued for another 10 minutes, but the outcome was already clear. The Kethran ships, despite their technological advantages, could not match the chaotic adaptability of human military doctrine. Morrison demonstrated defense systems that shouldn't work, but did. He showed weapons that ignored established defensive principles. Most importantly, he proved that human unpredictability was a weapon all by itself. Finally, General Morden's flagship stopped firing. The other Kethran vessels followed suit. "Unknown human warrior." Morden's voice carried something Morrison had never expected to hear from an alien. "Respect. You have proven your strength. Your species fights with honor, even against those who challenge without cause." Morrison let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "Thank you, General. We look forward to learning from each other." As the Kethran ships withdrew, Foster reported the damage assessment. "Minor shield damage, no hull breaches, no casualties. They were testing us, not trying to destroy us." Morrison nodded. "They needed to know what we were capable of." "Now they do." Oracle's voice filled the bridge. "Captain, I am receiving multiple communications from across the sector. Every species in the Dominion Alliance witnessed this engagement. The demonstration has had significant effects on their strategic calculations." "How so?" "They are realizing that their fundamental assumptions about space combat may be obsolete. Human military doctrine appears to be based on principles they had not considered." Dr. Newton looked up from his station. "Captain, we just showed an entire galactic civilization that their idea of warfare might be wrong. That's going to have consequences." Morrison walked to the main screen, watching as normal traffic slowly resumed in the space around them. Ships began moving again. Space stations came back online, but something had changed forever. "Oracle, what's the status of those diplomatic protocols?" "The Dominion Council has accelerated their procedures significantly, Captain. They wish to establish formal communications immediately." Morrison smiled. "Sometimes the best way to make peace was to show you were capable of war. The galaxy had tested humanity's strength and found it worthy of respect. Now the real work could begin. The first formal diplomatic meeting took place 3 days after the demonstration. Captain Morrison found himself sitting across from representatives of 12 different alien species in a conference room aboard the massive Dominion space. Station Ambassador Grace Williams had been hastily promoted from the Defiance's diplomatic officer to humanity's first interstellar ambassador. She studied the faces around the table, trying to read emotions in beings that didn't look remotely human. Captain Morrison, Representative Zixthera began, her crystalline body shifting through different colors. Your demonstration has created complications throughout Dominion space. Morrison kept his expression neutral. We defended ourselves when challenged, Representative. Nothing more. General Morden, who now attended the meeting as an honored participant rather than an opponent, gestured with his forearms. The human speaks truth. His warriors showed restraint even while proving their superiority. This is the mark of a species worthy of respect. The aquatic Nephti representative, whose name Morrison had learned was Flowsinger Daltha, spoke through her translation device. Respect, yes, but also concern. In 18 minutes, you demonstrated that our defense strategies are outdated. 3 centuries of military planning have become meaningless. Morrison exchanged glances with Ambassador Williams. They had prepared for this conversation during long hours in the Defiance's briefing room. Representatives, Williams said carefully, humanity doesn't seek to dominate or replace your existing security arrangements. We're explorers who got lost. Our only goal is peaceful cooperation and finding a way home. The Quentar ambassador ruffled his feathers nervously. But you cannot simply leave, Ambassador Williams. Your arrival has changed the balance of power in this region. Every species is now reconsidering their strategic positions. Oracle's voice came through Morrison's personal communicator, quiet enough that only he could hear. Captain, I am monitoring communications throughout the sector. Several species are indeed adjusting their military postures in response to our capabilities. Morrison spoke up. What kind of adjustments? Zixthara's crystalline form darkened slightly. The Veltar Council has voted to request immediate defensive alliance with humanity. The Catherine High Command is developing new training procedures based on your unpredictable tactics. 3 other species have increased their military budgets significantly, and some are demanding that you be expelled from Dominion space before you cause a war, added a new voice. Morrison turned to see a being he hadn't met before. Tall, insect-like, with compound eyes that reflected the room's lights. Ambassador Williams consulted her notes quickly. This is Hive Speaker Zektara of the Rathni Collective, Zixthara explained. They represent the more cautious factions within the Dominion. Zektara's translated voice buzzed with electronic harmonics. The humans bring chaos. Their military philosophy is based on unpredictability and adaptation. Such thinking spreads like a virus. Already our youth speak of creative destruction and competitive cooperation. These concepts threaten the stability we have maintained for centuries. Morrison was beginning to understand the scope of the problem. You're not just concerned about our weapons. You're worried about our ideas. Precisely, Daltha confirmed. Your species approaches problems differently than any of ours. This difference is infectious. Dr. Carl Newton had been quietly observing from his position as the human delegation's science advisor. Now he leaned forward. Perhaps that's not entirely a bad thing. Ambassador Williams, may I share some of our medical analysis? Williams nodded. Newton activated a small holographic display. We've been studying the biological data freely available in your public databases. Several Dominion species are facing serious genetic diversity problems. Human medical techniques might be able to help. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. The Quentar reproductive issues, Newton continued, appear to be caused by a lack of genetic variation. Human genetic therapy could introduce controlled diversity without compromising your species' unique characteristics. The Quentar ambassador's feathers shifted to brighter colors. You would share such knowledge? That's what explorers do, Morrison said. We learn, and we share what we learn. Zixthara's crystalline form cycled through several colors rapidly, indicating deep thought. This changes the equation significantly. You offer benefits to offset the disruption your presence causes. Morrison received another quiet communication from Oracle. Captain, I have been analyzing intercepted communications from Earth. President Ellen Davis has authorized preliminary negotiations, but political tensions are rising. Several Earth factions oppose any alien contact. Morrison kept his expression neutral, but inside he felt the weight of responsibility growing. He wasn't just representing his ship anymore. Every decision he made would affect humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. General Morden spoke up. There is another matter we must discuss. The humans have proven their defensive capabilities, but they do not yet understand the true nature of the threats we face. The dark expansion, Morrison said quietly. The room's atmosphere changed instantly. Every alien representative shifted uncomfortably. Zixthera's voice lost its diplomatic warmth. What do you know of that? Only fragments Oracle decoded from your communications. Something that consumed star systems before stopping at your borders. Daltha's water tank bubbled with agitation. 47 years ago, 3 entire sectors went dark. No communications, no survivors, no explanation. The expansion reached our border and simply stopped. We built the Dominion Alliance as much for defense as for cooperation, the Quentar ambassador added. Our combined fleets patrol the dark sectors, watching for any sign of renewal. Morrison felt pieces clicking together in his mind. You need allies. Real allies, not just trading partners. The thought had occurred to us, Zixthera admitted. A species with your military adaptability might be exactly what we need if the dark expansion returns. Hive speaker Zektara buzzed angrily. This is exactly what I warned against. You invite chaos to fight chaos. Better to maintain our proven defenses. Proven defenses that couldn't stop the dark expansion last time, Mordun pointed out bluntly. The argument that followed lasted 3 hours. Morrison and Williams mostly listened, learning about the complex politics and fears that drove Dominion policy. By the end, they understood that humanity's arrival had forced these beings to confront questions they had been avoiding for decades. Finally, Zixthera called for order. We must reach some preliminary agreements. The current situation cannot continue indefinitely. Williams took the lead. The United Earth government proposes a 6-month cultural and scientific exchange program. We'll share our medical and defensive technologies in return for navigation assistance and cultural knowledge. And if the dark expansion returns during those 6 months? Delta asked. Morrison answered without hesitation. Then humanity will stand with the Dominion. That's what allies do. The vote was close, 7 species in favor, 4 opposed, 1 abstention. But it was enough. As the meeting ended, General Morden approached Morrison privately. Human captain, your words carry weight, but can your leaders deliver on such promises? Morrison thought of the fragmentary communications from Earth, the political chaos his arrival had caused. General, humans don't make promises lightly. If we say we'll stand with you, we will. Morden studied Morrison's face with his large, dark eyes. I believe you, Captain. The question is whether your species as a whole shares your honor. That night aboard the Defiance, Morrison stood in his quarters looking out at the alien space station. Lights moved in patterns unlike anything humans had ever built. Beings he was just beginning to understand went about their daily lives, unaware that their galaxy had fundamentally changed. Ambassador Williams found him there. Having second thoughts? About what we've committed to? No, about whether we can deliver. Every day, Williams joined him at the viewport. The communications from Earth are getting more complex. President Davis is managing multiple crises. Some factions want immediate military alliance with the Dominion. Others want us to come home and pretend this never happened. Morrison nodded. And some probably want to conquer the galaxy. That too. They stood in comfortable silence watching the alien lights. Finally, Morrison spoke. Grace, we can't control what Earth decides, but we can control what we do here. If we build something good, something that works, maybe it'll be harder for the politicians to tear it down. Williams smiled, optimistic for a military man. I've seen what humans can do when we work together instead of fighting each other. Maybe it's time the galaxy saw that too. In the distance, ships from 13 different species moved through space together, carrying cargo and passengers and hope for a future none of them could have imagined just days before. The galaxy was learning to speak with humanity's voice added to the chorus. But the real test was still coming. 6 months after first contact, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, watching ships from 14 different species work together to construct humanity's first permanent embassy in alien space. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Human adaptive architecture blended with Veltar crystalline structures and Kethron defensive systems. The result was something entirely new, a building that could reshape itself based on the needs of its inhabitants. "It's beautiful," said Dr. Carl Newton, joining Morrison at the viewing wall. "And it shouldn't work at all." Morrison smiled. "That seems to be our specialty." Newton had become the head of the first interspecies medical research facility. His work combining human genetic therapy with alien medical knowledge had already saved thousands of lives across multiple worlds. The Quentar were showing signs of genetic recovery. The Nephti had solved a respiratory disease that had plagued them for centuries. "Any word from Earth?" Newton asked. Morrison's expression grew serious. "President Davis is managing the situation, but barely. Half the world wants to send a military fleet to secure our interests. The other half wants to withdraw from all alien contact. The middle ground is getting, smaller every day." The truth was that Earth's reaction to first contact had been even more chaotic than the Dominion's. Religious groups proclaimed everything from the end times to humanity's divine destiny among the stars. Military leaders demanded immediate access to alien technology. Scientists fought for peaceful exploration rights. Politicians saw opportunity or threat in equal measure. Ambassador Grace Williams had been working 18-hour days, managing not just alien diplomacy but also communications with the increasingly fractured Earth government. "How is Grace holding up?" Newton asked. "Better than I expected. She's got a talent for making enemies into allies. The Rathni Collective actually requested her, personally for trade negotiations, after she convinced them that human unpredictability could be channeled into innovation rather than chaos." The door to the observation deck opened, and Commander Ryan Foster entered. He had been promoted to military liaison for the Joint Defense Initiatives. "Admiral, we're ready for the test," Foster announced. Morrison nodded. "Let's see what we've built together." They made their way to the Tactical Center, where representatives from all 14 species watched. Displays showing the first joint military exercise in galactic history. The fleet that took position in the test area looked like nothing that had ever flown before. Human battleships moved alongside Kethran destroyers, Veltar science vessels, and specialized craft from 9 other species. Each ship had been modified with technology shared by the others. General Mordoon commanded the exercise from his flagship, which now mounted human-designed adaptive armor alongside traditional Kethran weapons. All units assumed defensive formation Epsilon. Prepare for simulated dark expansion attack. The enemy ships were controlled by Oracle and other artificial intelligences, programmed to match the limited data available about the mysterious threat that had once consumed 3 sectors of space. Morrison watched as the joint fleet faced the simulation. Human ships provided unpredictable movement and adaptive defense. Kethran vessels delivered precise coordinated firepower. Veltar ships analyzed enemy patterns and shared data instantly across the fleet. "It's working," Foster said with amazement. "They're compensating for each other's weaknesses." But Morrison was watching something else. "Look at their formations, Ryan. They're not following any standard tactical doctrine." Foster studied the displays more carefully. "You're right. They're improvising, creating new patterns in real time. That's the human influence," Morrison realized. "We taught them that tactics don't have to be perfect, they just have to work." The exercise continued for 3 hours. The joint fleet faced scenarios that would have challenged any single species military. But together, they adapted, learned, and overcame every challenge. When it ended, General Morden's voice filled the tactical center. "All units, excellent performance. This fleet demonstrates capabilities none of our species could achieve alone." Representative Zixithara approached Morrison. "Admiral, your people have given us something we didn't know we needed." "What's that?" "The confidence to try impossible things." Later that evening, Morrison found himself in Unity Station's diplomatic quarters, meeting with the Dominion senior leadership. The purpose was to discuss the future, but Morrison suspected they all knew the conversation was really about the past that was catching up to them. "Long-range sensors have detected movement in the dark sectors," Zixthera announced without preamble. "After 47 years of silence, something is stirring." Morrison felt his stomach tighten. "The dark expansion? Unknown. But the energy signatures are similar to historical records from the original expansion." Dalta's water tank bubbled nervously. The timing cannot be coincidental. They return just as we gain human allies. Either they fear our new strength or our new alliances have somehow triggered their interest. Hive speaker Zektara, who had gradually warmed to human presence over the months, buzzed thoughtfully. Perhaps both. The humans demonstrate that different approaches to problem-solving can yield superior results. If the dark expansion observes our regions, they would notice this change. Morrison activated his communicator. Oracle, what's your analysis of the movement in the dark sectors? The AI's voice filled the room. Admiral, based on available data, the entities responsible for the dark expansion appear to be probing our border regions with small reconnaissance forces. Their technology remains largely unknown, but they demonstrate strategic thinking and coordinated planning. Recommendations? Continue joint fleet development. The dark expansion's previous success appears to have been based on overwhelming individual species before they could coordinate effective resistance. Our current alliance structure represents a strategic paradigm they have not previously encountered. General Morden leaned forward. The human suggests we have an advantage they do not expect. Exactly, Morrison agreed. But only if we can maintain unity when the real test comes. Over the following weeks, the pace of integration accelerated dramatically. Engineer Nick Coleman led teams that retrofitted hundreds of ships with hybrid technology. Captain Amy Rodriguez, now Admiral Rodriguez, commanded the first mixed-species crew aboard a new class of vessel that incorporated innovations from all 14 civilizations. The most significant change, however, was philosophical. Human concepts of competitive cooperation and creative problem-solving spread through Dominion space like wildfire. Young beings from a dozen species began approaching challenges with questions like, what if we tried the opposite? And how can we turn this problem into an advantage? Morrison received regular updates from Earth, where the political situation remained volatile but was slowly stabilizing. President Davis had managed to build a coalition supporting measured engagement with the Dominion Alliance. Military leaders were excited by the prospect of joint defense against external threats. Scientists were thrilled by the opportunities for shared research. But it was the message from his old friend Admiral Lisa Carter that brought the biggest news. Jake, her transmission began. The Joint Chiefs have approved Operation Starbridge. We're sending the first Earth fleet to join you. 12 ships, mixed military and civilian, arriving in approximately 8 months. Congratulations, Admiral. You're about to become the commander of humanity's first interstellar naval base. Morrison shared the news with his senior staff in the Defiance's briefing room. The old ship had become the symbolic heart of human presence in Dominion space, even as more advanced facilities were built around it. 12 ships, Foster said. That's 3 times the firepower we have now. It's not about firepower, Morrison replied. It's about commitment. Earth is telling the galaxy that humanity intends to stay and be part of whatever comes next. Dr. Newton looked thoughtful. The real question is whether we can maintain the cooperative spirit we've built here when Earth politics arrives. Ambassador Williams, joining them by holographic communication from Unity Station, nodded grimly. The fleet includes Senator Patricia Brooks as an official government representative. She's been vocal about protecting human interests and ensuring technological superiority. This could get complicated. Morrison stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the alien space around them. Ships from 14 species moved in patterns that would have been impossible 6 months ago, carrying cargo and passengers and ideas that were reshaping the galaxy. Then we'll have to make sure she sees what we've built here, Morrison said. The galaxy isn't the same place it was when we arrived. Neither are we. As if summoned by his words, Oracle's voice filled the briefing room. Admiral, long-range sensors have detected a massive energy signature approaching from the dark sectors. Based on the scale of the reading, this appears to be a major dark expansion fleet. Morrison felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. How long until they reach our border? Approximately 6 months, Admiral. 6 months until the Earth fleet arrived. 6 months until the dark expansion tested everything they had built together. 6 months to prove that cooperation between different species could create something